There were a lot of things that I thought about on my bike ride today, but first things first, this is one of them. Sometimes 5 o'clock finds you. Well, no, sometimes you find 5 o'clock. Oh my god. Sometimes you find 5 o'clock, and sometimes 5 o'clock finds you. That's right, 4:58 p.m. 4:59 now, Monday, the 11th of May, 2026, and that's good. That's as good as it ever was, my dude. I thought that I was going to be real clever and sit underneath my car, because I could use the rear hood. Is that what you even call this thing? I think so. Rear hood as like a sun visor, and now I'm finding that because my rear hood has like a window out of it, a windshield that the sun is actually poking through, which if you know anything about me, you know that makes me mad. But yeah, I wasn't sure if I would have anything to say, and I think that it's kind of lame to have like, I don't think I have anything to say as like a sign-on, so I'm trying to not get in the habit of doing that, even though I do feel like it's helpful for me. It takes the pressure off. Makes me feel like, I even do it with myself, like even in clips where I'm not publishing them. Like I start that way just because I'm like, I'm acknowledging that something feels like it needs to come out, but I'm not entirely sure I have the exact words to describe it. And honestly, the way I'm describing this, it sounds very biological. It reminds me of going to the bathroom, which, I think is not an inapt metaphor. But yeah, I've talked a lot today. And so I was glad that today was one of those kinds of days where even though you've talked a lot, you don't feel like it diminished your ability to talk more. Certainly, I didn't make a clip yesterday, and that's because I felt like I didn't have anything to say. but even more so. So much more so that I put my money where my mouth was and I didn't even try. Like it's one thing to say you don't think you have much to say into a recorder, because hey, you know what, you're still saying something. But if you don't even pick up the recorder to begin with, that's when you really don't have anything to say. Ended up talking to my parents instead, which was fine. And shout out to my parents. It was better than fine. It was actually very relaxing and enjoyable. Just like not feeling like I had to manufacture an entire conversation all by myself. So it was actually relaxing. But yeah, I just spent the last 45 minutes listening to a song, and it's probably the most magnificent song I've heard in recent memory. That's not to say that I don't often hear magnificent songs, but this one is certainly a cut above the rest. It's an 8-minute song. It's by an artist named Tigran Hamasyan, who is one of my favorite artists for sure. It was just like a insane song. Like this guy Tigran Hamasyan, just as a quick bio, one thing I do when I get really into artists is that I will kind of study the person in addition to the art, And so Tigran Hamasyan is an Armenian man, born in Armenia, which is consequential because one of my favorite bands when I was in middle school was System of a Down. And, I'm of an era, I'm of an age, and all the guys in that band were Armenian, and a lot of their music dealt with, they didn't directly deal with the Armenian Genocide, but the Armenian Genocide was a big part of their political statement as a band. And so, I learned about what the Armenian Genocide was. Since I'd never learned about it in school, it was an interesting thing to actually learn about through the music that I was consuming, if only even peripherally, I guess. But so there's a connection there, and the singer from System of a Down has also made music with Tigran Hamasyan as I think another kind of effort of trying to just get more attention and world knowledge of the Armenian Genocide. I actually don't remember many details about it, so I guess I'm a bad student. But I know it happened, and it's something that, it's an interesting situation. I don't know if it was religiously motivated, but people in Armenia, by and large, I think are Christian, although they look a way that most Western Christians would probably assume they were Islamic. And so it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition there for emotional feels when, since I was a kid, basically people who look Middle Eastern have at one point or another, by and large, been characterized as, scary or dangerous or enemies, and then so the primary reason that happened was that they were Islamic and ostensibly we are a Christian nation, and this was some sort of a holy war. And so it's interesting to look at a country like Armenia, where the demographic representation of the phenotypical presentation of people, again, looks more Arabic because of the region and all that kind of stuff. But Christianity actually did infiltrate that area. And they're actually our allies. It's just an interesting mismatch between like the propaganda that I kind of grew up with, and then the fact that it's actually, you can't really put a face to religion, and if you do, you're obviously like going to miss the universality of it, because it's not like you have to be Arabic to Arabic? No, that's a language. You don't have to be. Is that just strictly a language? Let's just say Middle Eastern. I'm getting old. Can't keep up with all these terms. If you look Middle Eastern, the presumption is that you're Islamic, but the largest Islamic country in the world, I believe, is Indonesia, which I don't really think many people would often think about the fact that like the bulk of the Muslim population is actually Indonesian, or maybe not even bulk, but a substantial portion, It's just interesting, just more proof that our race is an artificial construct, My mom's coming outside. Shout out to my parents. Always makes me a little self-conscious. I gotta love it. I've already said today once, but I am a human male adult child. And thanks. It's a privilege. But yeah, wow. Okay, so I don't even know why I'm talking about all that. That has nothing to do with, well, it does have something to do with Tigran Hamasyan, but the real thing that I was excited to talk about is the song. Like, the song is just crazy. Now, I didn't know what the name of the song was, so don't look at me and be like, oh, well, duh, you like that song. I found out the name of the song afterwards, and it's called AI. It's like A-E-Y-E, though, I think it's called, like, AI, what is it called? I actually forgot. I listened to it like 5 times, and I don't look at the screen. AI, the Digital Leviathan. So, yeah. It's so complex. Like, it's such a rich song. Like, it's got so much crazy musical texture to it, and the rhythms are just absolutely absurd. Like, I watched a really cool video yesterday on YouTube of a guy who was basically breaking down the song from a drummer's perspective primarily, and so that you could like understand and follow what was actually happening. The first 2 measures in the song are in 17. So, I have limited understanding of like musical theory. I did play drums for a while, and I enjoy playing guitar, and I especially enjoy playing things that are like a little bit off rhythm, or at least like in a certain type of time signature that is a little different than just like a straight 4/4. But the first 2 measures are in 17, and it's like it's hard enough just to bob your head to the beat, which for me was pretty much impossible for the entirety of my bike ride. Like, just little bits and bobs of it could I actually follow along with and like really groove. I learned it a little bit more every time. And I do intend on putting it at the end of this episode, just because I do think it's worth sharing, although I have a very, very poor history of any of the things that I share with people being things that they actually like. So caveat emptor, my dude, I don't expect you to like this song. That is my plight. From Dan Harmon to Tigran Hamasyan, Kenneth Pereiro will bore you to tears. Yeah, what am I doing? I'm trying to move my stuff because I feel like I'm in the sun, and I don't like that. Oh my god. What a mess. What a mess. Okay. Let's move around just a little bit. I was sitting on the east side of my car, and I needed to be on the west side. It's just a little bit more covered. And now the clouds are out anyway, so, of course, You know what they say, if you ever like wanted to stop, if you ever wanted to stop, yeah, if you ever want it to stop raining, put on your rain jacket. Like, the second you make some effort to be in a better situation that's volatile like the weather, it's all going to change. Anyway, yeah, this song is amazing. I just listened to it over and over again, and it's an 8-minute song, so it's like, it's not really, it's a song that asks a lot of you, like, just in terms of attention. Like, you know, I see an 8-minute song, I'm like, well, that's basically 2 songs put into one, and we're talking about long songs too. Like, a 4-minute song is like, that's pushing the envelope of like what would be acceptable on pop radio, maybe. I don't know if that's true. Don't quote me on that. But that's my assumption, especially with the TikTok generation. Oh my God, my dad's calling me now. I am a child. All right, crisis averted. My dad was looking for something, and then he found it, and shout out to my parents. Yeah, so what am I talking about? Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I was having some wistful nostalgia on the bike ride as well, which was fun. And I was thinking back, like, to when I was in college, and, you know, as young people do, if you'll permit an old man to, you know, wax poetic about his youth, you know, there was some experimentation done. I feel like I've never been very attracted to substances outside of the very dull grouping of like what is commonly available and more or less acceptable. And this does tie into a larger point. I hope I remember to do that later. I think I'll forget. But I'm not strictly just talking about drugs, because I think that that's actually somewhat of a uncharismatic topic, because it's so personalized. It's kind of like listening to someone talk about their dreams. It's just like, ugh. I mean, maybe it's interesting if you're listening to your partner and you make an appearance and you do something notable. But by and large, listening to someone else's dreams is like, oof, that's like attending a lecture hall in a country that speaks a language that you don't. You know, it's just like, oh my God, I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, like I've certainly, in my youth, I've experimented with, let's just call them, like, what do they call them? Funny cigarettes? I don't know. Those kinds of things, you know. And the instances in my life when I had those experiences, music especially, became so much more texture rich, right? So like, this is the most stoner like rant that I can imagine even attempting to enter the arena for. But, you know, like, I remember being in the back of a friend's car listening to the Marshall Mathers album, Eminem, a classic, an absolute classic. And it sounded like I was at a concert. Like, there was dimensionality to the sound that, like, I was familiar with all these songs. I think I probably suggested that we listen to it. And, you know, I just remember listening to some song, and it just sounded like Eminem was in the car with us, like, and it was like a live experience. Like the music, I was thinking about the word texture while I was riding my bike, and you know, the thing about it, it's like music. Typically, it's kind of flat, you know, like the way that most people consume it, unless you have like really expensive headphones, I guess. Like I always have cheap headphones, so for me, it's like music is very like, it feels kind of 2-dimensional, maybe even 1-dimensional. But there are experiences I've had where the music it takes on more texture, where like things are coming out in a different type of focused way. I can sometimes do this just on demand if I'm listening to a song and I want to focus on like the drummer or the bassist or the guitarist. I can kind of hear them more prominently, and in addition to like all the stuff that's also going on around them. But yeah, all that just to say, what is my point? This is one thought that I had when I was reflecting on that time in my life, so long ago. I was just like, I'm kind of glad. I was always kind of a little nervous about substances that you can't buy at a store. That's my general rule. Shout out to James. Oh, and shout out to Mike. Mike, I'm looking forward to our conversation. I meant to give you a shout out immediately, but like I said, I was thinking about a lot of things, and that one, unfortunately, fell by the wayside, but I'm glad I saw it because I was like, that was one that I really wanted to do. Looking forward to it. Anyway, substances. Shout out to James. Yeah, like my general mantra is that I don't consume any substances that you can't buy in a store. And then I kind of actually my actual updated mantra is that I only do over-the-counter substances, because I realized at a certain point with the previous model of my thought, like you can buy like fentanyl at the store if you have a prescription. So only over-the-counter things. Those are really the only things I'm comfortable with. And as a young person who was studying psychology in college, I did learn at a certain point that age bracket between like 18 and 25 is when some psychotic tendencies can be unearthed and or exacerbated and or initialized through substance use. And I saw a lot of my friends using substances. I feel like Bill Clinton. But I was always kind of unimpressed with like the information that they came back with. There were a host of things that were going around when I was in college, and a lot of my friends did them. So I kind of took notes, human voyeur as I am, voyeur. I was just always like, you just seem like the same dude that you were before. Like, I don't know, maybe something did happen internally. I can hold space for that possibility. But in terms of my experience of these people, it didn't seem like whatever it was all that deep, because it never seemed to substantially change their behavior, at least in the ways that I was trying to directly observe. You know what I'm saying? I think that you do. And so I just stayed away from all that stuff. And I think that, honestly, I'm glad that I did, because there are certain things that are just strictly not for me. One of them is a Shimano Dura-Ace group set. Like, I have no business ever owning a Shimano Dura-Ace group set. Like, first of all, I don't race competitively, and so it really doesn't matter. I should say, a Shimano Dura-Ace group set is like the highest tier offering that the Shimano bicycle company, they're not really a bicycle company, but the Shimano, how deep should I even go? Suffice it to say, there are multiple manufacturers of high-quality bicycle components. And as you might expect, I actually do have high standards when it comes to my componentry. And the highest echelon for my preferred dealer, Shimano, is Dura-Ace. And it's the most expensive, it's the most lightweight, it's the most infused and innervated with technological advancements. Like, it's a Porsche of a group set is what they're called, components, And I just, at a certain point in my life, I guess maybe even the first time I ever encountered it, I was just like, oh, well, that's not for me. Like, that's like, there's no part of me that needs or wants that. And I am content with it forever being part of someone else's reality. And I don't feel robbed by that. And in fact, I can probably be quite smug about how much better off I am, I think, with the things that I actually do choose, which are like the practical, ugly workhorse components that Shimano also offers, Yeah. Give me Shimano Tiagra. You know what I'm saying? Give me like a 10-speed, modern Tiagra group set, like, $400 maybe. And I'm pretty happy. A 20 geared set, like, that works for me, my dude. My dad's home. I'm glad. I guess he found everything he needed. Hey. I'll pause this for a moment for familial conviviality. Lol, I just flushed filial piety down the toilet, my dude. My dad told me he wanted me to help with something, and I was like, I can't. And he was like, and I was like, sorry. I've been pulled away from my digital Needfuls all day. I guess, I don't even remember what I was talking about, but it was probably something to do with drugs and friends and Oh yeah, my main point was that everybody hides, just like that REM song. Everybody hides sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I think that you do. And yeah, like I'm glad that I found a way to hide from the world that didn't overshoot my expectations of what was sustainable. You know, just like Dura-Ace, like I look at people, like, you know, again, going back to that American Gangster movie the other night, like about heroin and stuff like that, I'm like, I've just never even thought, like, again, it's just like not for me. Like there's never been a moment where I was like, I want to feel intense, immense pleasure. You know, most of the time my instincts are to feel the opposite. You know, like when I see a particularly terrible looking hill, if I'm in the right mood, which I would say, you know, depending on the day, maybe 45% of the time I could be in this mood where I'm like, I want to see how bad that hill is to go up, and I'll bike up that hill. And I'm like, this sucks so bad. I can't believe how bad this sucks. Like, so I guess maybe I'm like what would you call that? Like, I mean, it's like the opposite of like a junkie, but it's like the same impulse. I don't even know. Doesn't matter. You can figure it out. But yeah, everybody hides, and I'm glad that I do the way that I do. You know, my parents, we also watched a movie recently about an octopus that healed the relationship of two people. I forget what it was called. It's called like Strange and Wonderful Creatures or something like that. I don't even remember, but it was interesting. And I was thinking about it the other day because, or maybe today, well, here comes my dad right on cue. Shout out to my parents. What's up?
He doesn't like them.
Oh.
He doesn't like.
Well, it turns out that it was good that I turned my dad down for the help that he was requesting, because apparently it would have been a fool's errand, my dude. We were going to put some things on a different thing, and then my mom said she didn't like the way that that thing looked, and so that thing will not be changed. Oh my God. Like, yeah. I'm still trying to get through this one thought. Yeah, I think I'm through. So what else? Well, today was kind of a interesting day. As I mentioned, I feel like I've talked a lot. I have been waking up at about 8:30, and that's as late as I can sleep before I start to feel like a human piece of garbage. And it feels good. Like, I feel like I've probably been pretty chronically sleep deprived for years, because of my physical like output, and then also the fact that in general, like, I think that sleep is kind of a waste of time. Like, not in like the optimizer culture kind of like, you know, every second is precious because you could be making money kind of way, or selling your brand or whatever, but just strictly in the fact that, like, if I had my choice, if someone came up to me and they were like, hey, like, we'll cross all the T's and dot all the I's biologically if you would prefer not to sleep, if you would prefer to have whatever happens during sleep, if you prefer to have that integrated into your waking experience, like, all you have to do is sign at the dotted line. Like, I would sign that document. Like, I've always thought that even though sleep, like, feels good, I think consider that a biological trick. Odysseus comes to mind with the call of the sirens. It's like, I would be happy to give up sleep if I, again, was given the option to do so. But, oh my God, I totally forgot what I was talking about. It was like, what was it? Sleep. Woke up I'm just going over my day. So yeah, I had like a bunch of digital Needfuls today. Today's Monday, so, you know, start of the business week. Shout out to my dude Travis. And rightfully so, it felt like a day where I needed to do something productive with my digital Needfuls. And so I did apply for a job in addition to, like, responding to all my text messages. That's about it. I guess I did make a distinct cover letter for a position. which thankfully wasn't too arduous of a task. And yeah, I was doing stuff from 8:30, like around the house, and also on my phone and on the computer, until like dang near noon 30. And then my mom came back, and I helped her with some, unloading the groceries and stuff like that. And then my dad called at a certain point and asked me to bring over some stuff that they needed at the church. So I went over and did that. And then I also got, I don't want to say roped in, although that was the first phrase that came to mind to describe it, because I volunteered to do this. But basically, the church that my parents go to, and I do as well on occasion as a gracious tourist, it's being renovated, and the pastor's office had a bunch of boxes and things that needed to be boxed. And so I went over there at a certain point, I don't know, maybe like 1:30. I can't really account for all the time gaps, but, suffice it to say, I was there for at least an hour and a half, perhaps longer. I can't quite recall. Boxing things up and then taking them over to another place where they could be safely kept. And that was good. I enjoyed that. Again, I've mentioned before that I need to have some kind of thing where I'm giving back to a community. To this point, it seems like it doesn't matter what that community is. It could be the Raven Gap Presbyterian Church. It could be the trail maintenance crew that I worked with back in, when was that? February. It could be just tasks that my parents want done. But God says, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am. I think for happiness as a human, I think you need to be impacting at least one other person in order to feel, for lack of a better word, God. Deal with it. You know what I'm saying? I think that you do. And so, yeah, I did that. Then I came back, and then I went for the awesome bike ride and got to listen to the awesome music, and I had a really good time. Thanks for asking. And yeah, as I said at the end of this, I will include that song. I haven't done sound design for a while, so I can't wait to drag two audio clips together and then save them as a combined MP3. I'm going to feel like freaking Rick Rubin over here. And what else? I think I had some list notes, but to be honest, I made them out of desperation. Okay, well, yeah, okay. Okay, well, I can probably talk about at least two of these. Maybe all three. So, okay, I've been listening to some recent clips from let's call it a symposium. But no, they called it a summit, I think. It was like an AI summit, and it had a lot of the big players, that I'm sure very few people know the names of, but like Greg Brockman of OpenAI, Demis Hassabis, ever heard of him? Of Google DeepMind. That dude is like freaking, I honestly, personally would consider him a modern, I want to say a modern Einstein. I think the concept of being an Einstein is kind of overwrought at this point, because a group of people can do far more than an individual, even a incredibly gifted individual. And yeah, Demis Hassabis, if you're ever interested in seeing some really cool stuff that AI can do, highly recommend. I think the movie is called The Thinking Game. I think so. It was a documentary Google put out a few years ago about, what was it called? AlphaGo. Where they trained an AI to basically beat the top Go player in the world, a South Korean man named Lee Sedol. And if you're not familiar, Go is an ancient Chinese game, most similar to chess, however, nothing really alike. And the crazy thing is the number of possible plays that exist on a Go board far exceed the number of atoms in the universe. So basically, you're dealing with an infinite system, effectively. And with this infinity, they were able to create an artificial intelligence that understood the game so well that it made moves that no human has ever made. I think the famous move is move 37. I believe that's what it's called. And was it 37? I don't know. Notebook LM, you help me out. But basically, at one point, AI made a move that like everyone was shocked by. It's funny. It's like watching, what is it called? Like a slow speed train crash. Like it's like the least stakes happening you can imagine. Like, can you imagine like gasping like while watching a chess game? I mean, I'm sure there are people who can, but they're geniuses. Like, and the average person is going to watch professionals play chess with like a bemused, glazed over look at best, because it's just like, dude, I don't know what you guys are doing. Like, come on, this is like boring. Can we go get some beers? Like, you know. Anyway, wow, what a tangent. So I was watching these videos from the summit recently, and there was one guy who was talking about how power inefficient AI is, which is certainly true. And the human brain, it consumes 20 watts of power in order to calculate things and be a brain. And like, you know, when we're talking about data centers and power sources for those data centers, we're talking about power like in the, I think it's, they talk about it all the time on moonshots, but I think it's terawatts. Ooh, is it terawatts? It's like billions of watts to power these things. So they're dreadfully inefficient. And so I was having thoughts the other day while biking, because I was desperate because I didn't know what else I would talk about. And I was like, you know, the human body might actually be the best data center and power source for future AI. Like maybe it's naive to think that these things should be forever externalized from our direct use. And so I was just thinking at a certain point, broadly speaking, because, you know, I don't think about details are kind of lost on me. Like, I'm not really detail oriented. I'm more like broad strokes. Like, I can like make your yard look good from a distance, but if you got up close, you'd probably be like, this is really bad or something. But my thought was like, okay, so like, you know, computers are binary. They're zeros and ones, right? And as far as I understand it, chromosomes, which I don't even know if chromosomes are really the right way to approach this, but chromosomes have 4 base pairs, right? You have adenosine, tennessine? Is that even a thing? Adenosine, tennessine, ATCG, cytosine, guanine. I don't even know, dude. I definitely did not study biology, but I was musing on the possibility of like a brain-computer interface. I was like, well, you'd have to figure out like that interface part is like the most vital part, and I was just like, how would you do that? Like, how would you convert? And you wouldn't use chromosomes for this, but, you know, just as an exercise for something that's easily put into a certain type of cage. Like, how would you translate, like, how would you run a GPU, a graphics processing unit? And I don't know if you'd actually need, how would you run a frontier AI model on a human brain? How would that work? What would be the interface layer is the thing that I'm most interested in there. Because I'm like, how would you convert computing language and understanding to human language and understanding? Like, what would that look like? And, you know, Neuralink is already trying to do this with some pretty, at least, you know, proof of concept success. You know, they have a man who's a paraplegic, and he, at a minimum, maybe more so now, he is able to move a cursor just by pure thought. And so that's the beginnings of that interface that I'm pondering. But, you know, unfortunately, I'm not a computational neurologist, and unfortunately, I didn't study anything that actually gives me a leg up in my fantasies, and unfortunately, you know, I don't know much about stuff, and so, you know, I can only be entertained by the thoughts. I can't actually go out and do much about them. All right, another note. I was thinking today that young people should say as like a young phrase, like a phraseology thing. Intib, intimb, which stands for not that it matters, but I think I think that would be a very good caveat for human beings to start sentences with, like intib. I think that we should, just to basically at the outset, just say that, like, Dan Harmon, my favorite person who no one else likes, he talks all about, oftentimes anyway, he uses a phrase which is bad pitch, and then he'll go into an idea that's like obviously bad, but maybe there's something there. Like, when I listen to Dan Harmon talk about what it's like to be in the writer's room, it sounds ideal. I'm sure that there are a lot of really bad situations and impasses and things that involve ego and a lack of forward movement inside of a writer's room for a TV show. But the idea of starting a sentence with bad pitch, and then you say whatever your idea is, and then seeing if there's anything at all there that is worth exploring more, even if it's just a kernel of an idea that, again, was like, a diamond ring lost in a puddle of mud, there could be something there. So intib, not that it matters, but intimb. Maybe it's too hard to say. I can't say it. But a beer and a half can do that to you. And so I've got one more point. Oh, okay. Yeah, good. I always like to talk about how much I don't like social media. Thanks, me. So, one of my favorite, historically speaking, YouTube channels is the Global Cycling Network, GCN. And recently I noticed that they started to use clickbait video icons for their new releases. And I was just like, damn, like, I get it respectfully. Like, I understand that they probably are always trying to increase their reach and their network. I mean, they're called the Global Cycling Network. And so I just got to think that there was some pressure either by a new employee who was in charge of digital marketing, or perhaps a current digital marketing director who wants to, like, utilize things to, it's a chase of marginal gains, because I'm sure they will get fractionally more people to click on their videos by posing them in clickbaity kind of way. But it was just kind of interesting to me to see it, because I was like, I always considered Global Cycling Network, first of all, they have a huge viewership. I mean, and I don't know, 5 million people maybe. Well, let's see, actually, as I talk about this, it would be interesting to get some real statistics rather than me just like, shooting from the hip. Oh my God, global, come on, dude. How many, they have 3.5 million subscribers. So I would say that's close enough to, 5 million, that makes no difference. But yeah, some of their recent videos are, Did I Survive? And then another one is Warning Signs, the Hidden Danger of Your Cycling Midlife Crisis. Micro Adventure, I tried bike packing with a tiny tent and this is what happened. This needs to stop. Why your new car is deadlier than your last one. Let's see. Dutch Disaster, is the world's most friendly bike country about to make a huge mistake. The steepest road in the world. I tried the hardest, all caps, and the steepest, all caps, climb in the world in one day. And then that last one I'll read. I quit, parentheses, for a bit. I quit Strava. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not disappointed, but I'm a bit surprised that digital marketing has invaded a space that I thought was a little bit more sacred, because, like, cyclists, we're going to find the content that they are posting before they have to think about the way that they're posting it, like, you don't have to have a catchy thumbnail. In fact, as this segment might be proving, like a catchy thumbnail actually makes me feel that you have less credit and less credibility. And yeah, it's just funny because, like, again, I have flirted with the idea of trying to become an influencer, but every time, again, as I mentioned earlier, at least in terms of phrases, every time I step into that arena, I'm like, ooh, this just doesn't feel right. Like, this feels really bad. Like, so toxic and so anti-human, but like it feels predatory. Like, being an influencer, I think you have to be predatory. You have to, yeah, respectfully. I'm sure, I don't know if there's any influencers listening. My guess is probably not. Anytime I'm eating dinner with my parents, I think to myself, man, if a bomb drops right here, right now, I'm losing 20% of my listenership immediately, But yeah, just like, it's just funny, just, it makes sense. I can't blame them as an organization that wants to grow, metastasize, if you will. You got to play by the rules, and the rules say if you want more clickable content, you got to present it in a certain kind of way. You got to have a certain kind of thumbnail, and you got to have a certain kind of text to accompany it. In fact, I have a picture that I made just for fun because I wanted to see. This is unrelated, but I asked AI to take a picture of myself and my dad and make it into a clickbait YouTube video. It's not an icon, thumbnail. And I thought it was hilarious. I'm going to try to find it real quick. You'll see it on the photo of the episode, and I guess that'll give it some context. But it was like, oh my God, I don't want to say it until I can read it out perfectly. But I have to think about exactly when I made that. Ooh, I know I sent it to a friend, so I can always pull it up from there. Shout out to Ben. But it was something that I made while I was in Florida. And here's actually I made it after. No, I made it while I was in Florida. But maybe I saved it as something that wasn't actually in my main photo album pictures, maybe. No, but I know I sent it to my friend Ben. Shout out to Ben yet again. So if I go to Ben and then I go to search and I search for the images that I've sent him and I look at all of them, I should be able to fairly quickly find. Okay, here it is. So a picture of my dad and I eating at Walmart. I do that all the time. I can't tell you how many times I will try to just to say the name of a fast food restaurant and then I'll say Walmart instead. This also happens when I try to say Alabama. Oftentimes when I say Alabama, I'll say Walmart. So, and I think that Walmart is the Alabama of retail shopping, respectfully. But anyway, my dad and I were eating at McDonald's, and in addition to giving me a bunch of extra tattoos, which was interesting because this picture that I took, you couldn't see that I had tattoos, and so it's interesting that it gave me tattoos in places that I don't actually have it. But the clickbait title was "My Dad's Epic Advice: Is this rebrand a total fail?" And it's perfect. I need to download that so that I can have it for later. Where did it go? I know that I'm trespassing upon real life, real content, but I need to download this. So, yeah. In any case, that's my life. I'm sticking to it. I don't have much of a choice. And so, for now, and as always, shout out to my parents. Love you. Bye.